Hello, welcome to When the Smoke Clears. I am the Recovery Plug. What's going on, everybody? Hope you guys are doing great today. I know my day's going pretty good. Yeah, it's another day, man. Another day in recovery, another day in sobriety, another great day to be alive. Yes, it is. So, what's happening to me? I hope you guys are doing good, man. Check this out. If you would, please, before we get started, if you would join me in a moment of silence, followed by the serenity prayer for the addict who still suffers, and for those of us who still bound down to a struggle that keeps us bound down in our everyday toxic world that we live in. So if you would, please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, wisdom to know the difference. Alrighty, well, let's get started. How's it going, everybody? Hope you guys doing good today, man. I know my day's going pretty good. It's kind of winding down, and yeah, so it was a great day. And lucky for me, I got to catch a meeting this morning, which is great. Anytime that when I mentioned that I get to catch a meeting, what I mean is that I got to attend a Narcotics Anonymous meeting or an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or just a peer support group, anything like that. So it's one of the many things that I do to keep myself in that spiritual and recovered, positive, cosmic power mode, if you know what I mean. You know what I mean? And it's just great to be able to do things like that. It's great to do that instead of being bound down to some addiction or some sort of stronghold. You know what I mean? Because we all have obstacles that we gotta deal with in our daily lives, and for some of us, unfortunately, some are worse than others. You know what I mean? And I know through experience. So. But anyway, check this out. What I want to do today is I want to just elaborate, I guess, on what I heard, what we read, part of something that was read over at the meeting that I went to. And it was a daily meditation thing. And the subject was meditation for beginners, how it is for some people. You know what I mean? Because in a lot of these recovery, spiritual, cosmic way of living, you know what I mean? And a lot has to do with different types of faith, you know what I mean? And one of the things that I know from researching and studying a few of the faiths that I do, is they all have in common is that they meditate. In some way, shape, or form or another, they meditate. If you pray, that's a type of meditation. You know what I mean? If you sit in silence for a little while, just gathering your thoughts, that's a type of meditation. If you're driving down the highway and you're just thinking about stuff, that is a type of meditation. You know what I mean? And and a lot of people don't know that. You know what I mean? They believe that, meditation's this thing that you gotta, be sitting with your legs crossed and your things like that, like the lotus position and all this kind of stuff, right? So it is it's a little bit more than that. You know what I mean? And positions of the body in some techniques and some meditation techniques, that's a big part of it. You know what I mean? But what I want to do today is just kind of go on a tangent off of that daily meditation, which was titled Meditation for Beginners. And I've been meditating for quite a little while now, you know what I mean, in my journey. And it hadn't always been like that. And I didn't know at one point that some of the things that I did was meditating, you know what I mean? It wasn't until years later, but, like I said, prayer, that sort of thing. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And one of the first things, when I got introduced to meditation, I practiced, you know what I mean? I attended a few sessions and and that sort of thing, and kind of did some research, reading about it, and that sort of thing. And you know, at first, I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be truthful with you. I didn't feel that it helped me. You know what I mean? I felt that, how could I just stay in silence? You know, sitting here thinking about something and just focusing on one thing. You know, that's a little hard to do. You know what I mean? I think too much. You know, there's a whole lot of things that go on my head. You know what I mean? And especially when I was in the addiction. You know what I mean? So I could understand how some people feel frustrated that, oh man, the meditation doesn't work. Meditation's for the hippies, quote unquote, or you know, the flower child type, and that sort of thing, the organic people, if you will. You know what I mean? And but it's not like that. You know what I mean? And it's all about relaxation. It's all about relaxation, not only the body, but the mind. You know what I mean? It's about being loved, being happy, being in content, being mindful, being enlightened. And not only is it, you know, the feeling of a relaxed body, but a relaxed mind. And to me, that is what intrigued me, was that the relaxed mind part, because for me, I had too many thoughts in my head. I had too many thoughts that were veering my life in a direction that was going to be ultimately a crash and burn of some sort. You know what I mean? And it was. You know what I mean? And it was to some extent. And you know, so it's like when I started doing meditation, I forgot the person who I was listening to when they said this, but it really stuck with me. And it was talking about meditating is going from one thought to the next. And if you can pause that thought process from this thought to this thought, well, it's in that space is where meditation happens. It's in that space where clarity comes. It's in that space where the answers to whatever you're meditating about will come. If you're going through an adversity, it's in that silent space from one thought to the next where the answer is going to be. And because we live in such a toxic world and we got so many things going through our mind, it is very hard to do. So, you know, in that reading, it said, you know, it's something that has to be done on a repetitious basis. It's something that has to be done on the daily basis. This meditation isn't something that's going to work if you're doing it once a month. You know what I mean? If you do it today and say, well, I got my meditation off, you know, check off list and I'm good. It doesn't happen that way. Meditation is a lifestyle. Meditation is something that involves more than just doing it one time and being in silence for a little while. You know what I mean? When I first started, it was just minutes. You know what I mean? It was minutes, and then the more that I engaged, and the more that I did my studies, my research, and that sort of thing, and the more I practiced, was the better off I felt. You know what I mean? The more I could stay in silence from one thought to the next. Because at first I would sit in silence trying to focus just on one thing. It could be some waves, it could be a flame, it could be whatever it is that you want to focus on. But if you can just focus on that one thing and try just to focus on that before another thought came into your mind, that was the process, that was the practice. But it was the space in between each thought. If you found yourself veering off, then you consciously catch yourself and you bring yourself back into that focus, right? And it was hard at first, man. I would veer off like every few seconds. You know what I mean? Every few seconds, something else would pop into my head. And believe it or not, scientifically, it's proven that the human mind, you and I, go through 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Imagine that. Imagine that. Imagine how many thoughts that's racing through your mind. You know what I mean? But the thing is that when that's happening, And in that meditation process, like I said, at first it was, for me, it was second to second that I would think in silence, and then another thought would come, and then another thought, and another thought, and that sort of thing. But because I would practice it on a daily basis, you know, from just doing it a few minutes a day, I find myself that I can do it now for an hour or more of meditation. You know what I mean? And the thoughts, the time between one thought to the next, I'm down to about good 10 to 15 minutes of total focus without another thought entering my mind, or that I allow it to enter my mind. Because see, this is the one thing that you and I are gifted with, and that's the gift of free will. You and I get to choose out of those 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day. You and I get to choose which ones we allow into our subconscious mind. In turn, there, when you allow something into your subconscious mind, whatever thought you allow in there, that is the actions that come out. You know what I mean? Those are the actions that you do on a daily basis. You know what I mean? So if you're in this rut of depression or anger or abuse of some kind, or an addiction or whatever, and you're thinking like that, negative, fearful, and dark, well then guess what? Those are going to be your actions. You know what I mean? And I know that personally, man, since I've been meditating, oh gosh, man, it's this whole feeling. It's like a euphoric feeling, but like with that and an out-of-body experience at the same time. I don't know if anybody's ever, felt that in their meditation, but that's how I get when I meditate. And I get to this thing where I feel that I'm there, but just in wait. If you understand, if you can get my concept here, because I feel like my body goes so relaxed and limp that I could feel the base of my body, whether it's on my on the bottom or under my feet. I could feel the heaviness of my body, and but consciously, I feel like I'm out. You know what I mean? And for some reason or another, every time I get into this deep meditation, for me personally, I get this purple light that comes in. It's dark because I do it with my eyes closed, and then there's this purple haze that comes, and it does this number here. It comes, and sometimes it breaks up like this, but it usually comes and it's just there. And the more that I do things and focus, that thing starts getting bigger and bigger, and it feels like I'm getting surrounded by this purple haze, and it's just such a wonderful feeling for me personally, because I've been doing it for a while now, that's how I feel. And I feel in that instance that anything that I'm saying, anything that I'm chanting, anything that I'm focusing on I feel like I'm allowing those energies from my heart and my brain out, and whatever it is. And that's how I do it. I express those things vocally so that I can manifest things into my life that are positive and spiritual, and just a positive karmic energy. You know what I mean? And it works. It works for me. You know what I mean? It's been working for me. So, and like I said, when I first started, it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? It wasn't like that. It was, I was going from one thought to the next, and I just didn't think things were working out. You know what I mean? I was like, meditation sucks. And occasionally I would fall asleep. You know what I mean? But I've learned through practice and through research and through teachings of different religions on how to meditate, that for me it's been a blessing. You know what I mean? And I don't know about anybody else, but for me personally, that's the way it's been. And I incorporate meditation with different exercisings and different breath work, breath work for me is very, very important. And I believe, wholeheartedly that breathing techniques during meditation, it escalates the chakras, if you will, I mean, it's just the energy levels in you. You know what I mean? And it's just a great feeling, man. And I feel like I am connected to my energies, and everything's in sync here like this. You know what I mean? Because I know when I was in addiction, half of me was here, half of me was over here, and I just was living life in this chaotic way. You know what I mean? And until I started thinking, positive things and spiritual things, then I started getting my frequencies in line, man. And then right now I just feel like they're just moving like this. You know what I mean? It's just a well-oiled machine, and it's going. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that every day is just this, happy and spiritual thing. No, I still have things that I deal with, adversities and stuff like that. But that's everyone. You know what I mean? But the thing is that with that meditation, I've been able to focus and channel and be aware of the things that come into my life that are, could potentially be negative and bad. So I know how to channel those things now. You know what I mean? And it's great. It's great to be able to do that. You know what I mean? Because I know that when I was bound down to an addiction, man, life was chaotic, man. You know what I mean? Life was chaotic, and it wasn't fun. That's for sure. And but through the grace of God, that and my cosmic energies of Mother Earth and that sort of thing, man, I feel that is just how my life is now, and it's great, that I've incorporated meditation into my life and into my recovery and into my spiritual being. And I like that there's different types of meditation techniques and that sort of thing, because I load those up in what I call my recovery arsenal. You know what I mean? My recovery arsenal is just loaded down with a lot of things that I've learned throughout the years and picked up from studying and reading, and from going to meetings and hearing other people's stories and convictions and that sort of thing, and listening to other people's podcasts. You know what I mean? Listening to sermons of different religions, and being just informed with all this knowledge of spiritual and cosmic and just positive things. You know what I mean? Because I know when I was in the world of addiction, man, I didn't do anything positive. There was nothing positive going into this brain right here. Everything was dark and negative and fearful. You know what I mean? It was always, where am I going to get the next hit, and how are we going to get this, how are we going to get more, and where are we going to get the money, and we need to go get more because we got to sell more, we got to do more. And it was just always like that. And everybody around me, everything that I involved myself in was dark and negative. You know what I mean? It was nothing. It was dark, negative, and fearful. Nothing was positive, spiritual, and energetic in a positive way. Nothing of it. No part of it was. You know what I mean? So it is. I'm grateful. I'm grateful that I get to incorporate a positive thing like meditation into my recovery arsenal and into my daily routine. You know what I mean? Because it's a big part of my day. You know what I mean? I wake up in the morning to meditation. I meditate during the day whenever I get a chance, and I meditate before I go to bed. You know what I mean? So it is something that is a big part of my life now, and I do different techniques of meditation. Sometimes I meditate doing Om chanting. Sometimes I meditate just reciting prayers. Sometimes I meditate just chanting affirmations that I have. Sometimes I just chant things that I want to come into fruition in my life. And, sometimes I just sit in silence. Sometimes I just sit in silence and try to just listen to my breathing and listen to just focusing on one thing. You know what I mean? And when I do that, man, that is when I get this real sense of clarity in my mind, and I get this real sense of relaxation in my body when it's just nothing. You know what I mean? And I don't know if anybody can relate to this, but you know, there's a sound to silence. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense to anybody? There's a sound to silence. And trust me, man, there is, and it's what they call the sound of the universe, and that's what Om chanting is all about. Om chanting is said that the Om chanting is the sound of the universe, so that's why they do it, because they say that you send these beautiful positive energies out into the world, and you know, the theory is that when you chant positive and spiritual things out into the world, when those are the things that come back to you, it's like a boomerang effect. You know what I mean? And and it's just great practice, man. You know what I mean? And everybody's got their own way of doing it, you know. But for me personally, those are the things that I do, and they work. They've been working for me. You know what I mean? And it's just great. I'm just you know, when I heard that today at the meeting, I figured, I said, you know what, I want to discuss that on the podcast so that other people can, you know, take notice, and perhaps maybe you can use that in your, one of the things that you do in your journey of life in spirituality, positivity, and recovery. You know what I mean? Because it's all good. You know what I mean? It's all good. And how can you go wrong by doing something positive? You know what I'm saying, my brothers and sisters? It's like a no-brainer to me. You know, why not incorporate something beautiful into your life, you know, and replace something negative, you know, replace some of that negative and dark things that you got going on in your mind and in your actions and stuff, and replacing it with something positive, man. You'll be amazed at how your life starts transforming little by little, you know what I mean? Because that's ultimately the way to do it, is just do little things, and the more you do them on a repetitive basis, man, your life will start transforming like you wouldn't believe, man. And it's just a great feeling, and it's beautiful, you know what I mean? But yeah, so I just wanted to kind of throw that out there today, and hopefully, you know, this Friday that you guys can maybe start a meditation. You know, maybe tomorrow, Saturday morning, you'll get up and do a little meditation or something like that. You know what I mean? It's always good. It's always good to do something positive, right? But so I guess, man, just check this out. I guess that's gonna be it for today. Tomorrow, I guess in my next video, I want to probably get back to finishing up the book, The Cosmic Power Within You, so that we can wrap that up, and we'll, you know, see what's after that, and keep moving forward. You know what I mean? There's always something positive on my channel. You know what I mean? So I hope that today's was encouraging to somebody out there. You know what I mean? Hopefully today was your the thing that you needed to hear, and if not, stay tuned tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow is, but nonetheless, I'm here to just share, man, and to be positive, and to let people know that, you know, being bound down through the chains of whatever it is that keeps you bound down, there's always a way out, my brothers and sisters, because I've been there and I've done that, and I know that there's a way out through experience. You know what I mean? So I guess at this time, if you would please hit that subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, shoot me a comment if you want to talk about anything here on this podcast. I'll be more than happy to do that. And you know, again, it doesn't cost you anything when you hit that subscribe button. Just know that when you do hit that subscribe button, you'll be helping out another veteran, another homeless person, another person dealing with PTSDs, childhood traumatic experiences, depression, anger, suicidal thoughts, sadness, and all those types of things, my friends, because I have dealt with all those things at one point in time in my life, and I personally know there's a way to get out of it, because I've been there and I've done that. So I really appreciate you guys watching. God bless you guys. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I guess until the next time on When the Smoke Clears, I am the Recovery Plug.